statements for each subject.
Okay. But then you found them, right?
Yeah.
What did you find on the ICF? Any issues?
No,
Okay,
just that some of them did not want to sign the genetic screening form.
The optional part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And was there any notes stating that, like a process of consent?
Not in the source.
No?
No.
There should be a progress notes for every screening. This could be one of your action items, okay? Every time there's a consent, every time, even if it's a reconsent, right? A progress note needs to be written, and on the eSource you could type it. In regards to what's called the process of consent. What do you know about this?
Where you speak to the subjects, explain to them that they can choose not to sign if they don't want to.
Yeah, so every site, where do they get their process of consent from? Every site. I love these videos because I can do this like every week and it's always a different topic.
Okay.
Because students find different stuff.
From the sponsor?
No.
The IRB?
No. This is a hard one. But once we're done with this, you're going to understand much better. The site SOP, okay? What's a SOP?
Standards of procedure.
There you go. Standard operating procedure.
Operating procedure.
So every site has their own SOP. They can do whatever they want as long as it's compliant with GCP.
Okay.
Right? Which is kind of the overarching theme of everything in research is GCP. Okay? So as long as, and most sites do more than what GCP requires.
Okay.
So this process of consent is taken from the site's SOP, and each time there's a consent form signed at the site, there needs to be a note in the progress note somewhere on the source that says what happened, did the patient ask questions, who did the consent, were there enough time to answer the questions, or did they have sufficient understanding of the study? Like the more detailed and descriptive, the better.
Okay.
Right? So if you didn't see that, that needs to be an action item for every single one. So before you leave tomorrow, go through it again. Even when you go home, you're gonna have access for like a week. Before you send your follow-up letter, you need to make sure. This is very important. FDA really looks at this during audits. And if they're writing things differently in their progress note than what their SOP says, like if their SOP says they need an initial and date every page,
Yeah.
but they don't, even if the IRB or sponsor doesn't require it for that study, that could be a finding because it's non-compliant with their own SOP. And the FDA has a huge problem with that. So as a CRA, what do you do if you discover that they're not compliant with their SOP? Let's say they're compliant with the protocol, and with the IRB, let's say the IRB says the subject doesn't have to initial and date every ICF page. But you discover the site's ICF SOP says they do.
Then give it to them as an action item and
Yes.
make sure it's done before the next visit.
Yes. Either they revise their SOP, or they do a corrective action, preventative action plan. Because the FDA really pays attention to the process of consent and SOP compliance. Like these are very important things that people forget about. Even sites. You know, I have to tell my sites all the time. Every time, especially when a new screening, but even if a reconsent, let's say the ICF amends, right? This process of consent needs to be in there, even if it's a paragraph. Even if it's a checklist. Was enough time for the subject? Check. Enough. Even if it's that, just something needs to be there. And if you didn't see that, and you need to double check, follow-up letter. Action item. Okay? So that's a big one. Okay, what else did you see that's from the report that might be inconsistent with anything, either GCP, the protocol. You're always looking for inconsistencies with GCP, with the protocol itself, or with the site SOPs. Those three things. And you need to see our SOPs, right? I can email you those.
For
I
the
could,
study,
I can email you our site's process of consent,
okay.
so you can check with that. Normally you will have it, like the sponsor will have it, because for a site selection visit, they always ask to collect a copy of the process of consent SOP.
Okay.
So the CRA, you may not have it because you're new to this to the study, and the monitor who did the site selection visit, it could be different, very often different from the real monitor.
Yeah.
But it's probably in the trial master file somewhere.
And always make copies.
Yeah, they're usually kept in the TMF. And every site you monitor might have a different SOP for the ICF.
Okay.
You gotta know, okay, this site, and then you gotta know in California it's Bill of Rights.
Yeah, I saw that.
But in the, like, if you go to Arizona, it's not. At least I don't think it is.
Okay.
You gotta know those things, okay? ICF, very important. FDA cares about this process of consent very much. And you gotta have a progress note explaining, or even a checklist. I've seen both ways, but something has to be there. If nothing is there, what do you do?
Note to file, action item.
That's right, action item. Now you can't do a note to file as the CRA.
Okay.
You have to tell everything, like when you're monitoring, you can't do anything with the source
Yeah.
as a CRA. It's everything is an action item for the site. So if they need to write a note to file, that needs to be an action item for me, right? Or you can tell the coordinator to do it on the spot.
On there,
If they have time, they will, and then you don't have to put that as action item. But you would still write in your report in the comments, the CRA sat down with the coordinator and explained the importance of following SOP, and to write a note to file as to where the process of consent was done, and that it was just not documented, but it was done. And in the future, to document. Okay. Very good, very good.
I guess because it's still the screening stage, I didn't get much.
That's right, no one randomized yet. So how many we have?
16, no, I'm sorry, 2 have been.
2 that are pending.
Yeah, 18 have been knocked off.
And we were supposed to have another one come today, 19.
Okay,
That's the one that was no show, maybe tomorrow.
okay, hopefully.
Yeah. Did you look at the regulatory?
That's the whole folder, right?
Yeah,
I
for
did.
this study, right? For the depression?
Yeah, that's the allergen, yeah, I did.
So what did you find anything there?
No.
No? Training logs good? Everybody has their CVs, GCP,
I did not get to that CVs.
IATA.
For the CVs.
Regulatory.
No, I did not look for those. I checked the Dell log.
Okay, that's good. Who did you make sure was on there? See, regulatory, very important. When you're new at a site,
Yeah.
most likely they're going to put you on regulatory. And if you can prove yourself at that site that you're good at regulatory, it happened to one of our former Atlanta students.
Okay.
We sent him to the site to intern there, which the site still exists, but they don't really work with us anymore.
Okay.
He was like one of the first ones there. They assigned him to regulatory. He maintained it so well. The monitors asked the site director, how is your reg binder so clean? And they said, oh, that's our intern. And then the monitor told the site director, we need to get this guy on delegation log, and he needs to be in charge of all your site's regulatory. And so he basically got his job by doing good at this stuff. So if you're gonna pick something to learn to start out with,
Mhm.
it's probably regulatory, alright?
Okay.
It's probably the easiest thing to learn. You don't need to know the protocol to be good at regulatory. Now to be a coordinator, you gotta know the protocol.
Okay.
Regulatory, you gotta go through all that. Tomorrow you're gonna go through all that, and tomorrow you're gonna do a closeout visit as well. If there's no patient, there's gonna be a closeout visit, which
Okay.
probably is better for you to do anyways.
Okay.
So you're gonna see all that stuff there too. Regulatory, everything needs to be closed out,
Okay.
right? And we're gonna talk, just like we are today, tomorrow about closeout.
Okay.
But today you gotta learn this stuff. So who, delegation log, right? Everybody goes on there.
Yeah.
1572, not necessarily everybody on the delegation log goes on the 1572.
Mhm.
So you have to know who's working on the study. If you see somebody's signature or name that is not on delegation log, that's a problem. Just like the monitor probably did with the intern. I doubt he was signing his name anywhere, but she was asking, who's maintaining your reg binder? And they said, oh, it's the intern. Well, okay, now she knows he's been working on the study, he needs to be on delegation log. Right?
Okay.
So very important. CV, what do you need to collect from anyone on delegation log?
Yeah.
What reg docs? What do you need to collect? And then what do you need to collect from sub-investigators or PIs on the 1572?
For Dell, we need their CVs, we need their certification copies.
Okay, good. CV. Which certification?
IATA,
Okay.
GCP.
Very good. Now, does IATA need to be for everybody? Like PI?
No, mostly for the lab people who are going to
Good.
be working with the samples.
Medical license too. Okay. And then what else though? There's another log that all these people on the delegation log need to be on as well.
Training.
There you go. Wow. You've been paying attention. Good. Some students, I asked that and they think, what am I missing? You got it right away. You know. So training log, okay? Different amendments. SIV, everybody should have training log. Because the monitor's job at SIV is to train everybody.
Yeah.
But now if somebody joins late or they weren't at the SIV, it's the site's responsibility to train them. And now it becomes your responsibility as the CRA to make sure it happened
Okay.
next time you come.
See the evidence of the training.
That's right. And if it didn't happen, what do you do? Another job interview.
Train them on the spot.
Or what if you don't have time?
Action item.
There you go. Action item, okay? That should be your answer for like every interview question if you're a CRA. The answer is like 90% of the questions. What do you do in this case? Well, it's an action item. Right. 1572. Who needs to go? Well, if you're a PI, obviously they go. But all the sub-Is go as well, and usually coordinators now too. So what do we need from these people in addition to all this stuff?
Their licenses.
But we have that here.
Oh.
But there's something that these people, not all these people will need to sign,
Mhm.
but all these people will need to sign.
Financial disclosure.
Ah, look at you. Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Very good. FDF. Okay. That's right. That's right. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it for the what they need. The people on the 1572 need. So not everybody on delegation log needs to sign the financial disclosure, but everyone on the 1572 needs to sign financial disclosure. And then everyone in the study needs training log, GCP, CV, any licenses they may have. Not everyone needs AIDA, just the relevant people. And not everyone needs FDF, just the people on this thing. So these are like the important forms for regulatory. Pretty much. And like startup regulatory, they try to collect all these things too.
Okay.
Like they'll try to collect the 1572, financial disclosures. What's another thing at startup that they try to collect? prior to the site being able to screen, what do they need? There's a couple things, but one of the big ones that a CRA needs to look for.
I can't remember what it's called. That the site is has all the things needed, the equipment.
Yeah, well that's done at SSV, site selection visit. So yeah, but let's say they're selected, and now before the site initiation visit, between site selection visit and site initiation visit, it's called study startup. And a lot of entry-level people get study startup positions too, whether it's at a sponsor, CRO, or a site. Study startup. So contract and budget, okay. CV, collecting CVs, GCPs, license, collecting the 1572, collecting the financial disclosures. This all happens at startup, okay?
Okay.
In between site selection and site initiation. But there's one more thing that's big that needs to occur before SIV for the site. And it involves
The IP?
Who?
The IP? The investigative product?
that too, that's a big one. The IP and all the supplies. Like all the kits, all the EDC trainings, all the IWRS training, all that stuff needs to be done, right? But what else? A huge one.
The brochure? I'm sorry, the IRB approval. Okay.
That's right, huge. You can't do anything without IRB approval for the site. Okay, site IRB approval. That's probably the most time-consuming thing for the site to do during startup. Okay. What else during startup? Protocol, right? Protocol. The site needs to confirm that they got the protocol. The PI needs to confirm that they read the protocol. How do they do that?
They sign.
Thank you very much.
They sign what? The protocol signature page. Come on in, Samuel. Join us.
Nice to see you. How are you?
See you too. Good. We're doing a lesson on
Nice to see
study
you.
startup. Nice
Yeah.
to see you too.
I
Have a
met
seat.
Dr. Seven yesterday.
Oh, very good. We're
Yeah.
gonna see her again.
Okay.
Have a seat. We're just
Thank you.
wrapping up with Cecilia. Okay.
Okay.
So protocol signature page. All right. Very important. What's another one? Now that we're in the study startup. And this is good for you too. You gotta let me know if they do this in China also.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
I bring my brochure to you yesterday.
We need it.
Yeah.
We need it.
Okay.
What else in study startup? And if you know, let me know too. It's very similar to the actually sent the same day the protocol sent to the site for startup. The Investigator Brochure. Very good.
Oh, to describe the drug.
So just like there's a protocol, there's an Investigator Brochure, otherwise known as IB.
Yeah.
And just like there's a protocol signature page, there's an Investigator Brochure.
Signature page.
Yeah, it's called acknowledgement.
Okay.
These are all study startup stuff. Now these only the PI needs to sign.
Okay.
Okay, financial disclosure everybody needs to sign. That's on 1572. So study startup gets very busy for people like you, who are most likely going to get started in that kind of a role.
Okay.
Study startup, you're collecting all this stuff and making sure all this is going on for every site. And then you're making sure it's all being put in the trial master file. Organized
Yeah.
by site. Alright, and then let's say in between the study startup, in between when the site is doing this stuff, preparing, now the protocol's amended. So now you, or whomever, it's called the in-house CRA, they're going to send a new protocol amendment. Now this happens again, a new protocol signature page that gets filed. Training now needs to happen on the new version. And that's usually saved till the SIV. So you see how all these things that you learned, how they all relate to each other. Because it's one thing to know, okay, what's a 1572? What's a financial disclosure? What's a SOP? It's one thing to know that. It's another thing to see how they relate to one another in real time. And that's what these job interview people are looking for.
Okay.
It's not enough to just know what's a 1572 and what's a trail master file and what's EDC. They want to see, does this person know what study startup is and how all these things flow into the workflow? Because if I'm going to hire Cecilia as my in-house CRA, yeah, she may know what 1572, what TMF is, but does she know like what happens between startup and SIV?
Got it.
And you will. And you gotta read the book too. You know. Okay? What else? IRB approval too. Don't forget this thing. You go to any IRB website and you can get the IRB application, initial site application.
Yeah.
You can download it. Sometimes they'll need like a login, but usually you can find these things. Initial site application, you'll see exactly what they ask for. You can actually see it in the rec binder here. You don't even need to do this because you're here on site. You can see it from the study that you're doing.
Okay.
Pay attention to all these things, okay? And then at closeout, we're going to do tomorrow. It's the same as what we discussed, but backwards.
Sign off.
That's right, sign off on this. IRB, instead of site applications, closeout form.
Okay.
And in between, it's interim IRB approval. Every year they have to reapprove the sites.
Okay.
As a monitor, you get to keep all this in mind while you're doing a bunch of other stuff too. You see? Anything else? That's how they do in China too.
Yeah, I think the China need more information like this, you know, and
More.
to eliminate more gap between China and America for clinical trial, clinical research.
So
And
there's
now
more
we are
here
doing
or
this.
more in China?
China has a China local version for the clinical research, but I think we can do many bridge between these, you know, to exchange more information and idea, and to encourage more researchers from two sides
You
to
see?
talk with each other.
We
Yeah.
need Cecilia to be involved. We'll get her involved. So what else do you find, Cecilia, from the report? And tomorrow our closeout visit. It's backwards everything, okay?
Yeah.
IP gets sent back. Instead of arriving, gets shipped back. Supplies get destroyed. Okay? Site SOP on destroying lab kits, on destroying IP, or on returning IP. All this comes back into importance at closeout, but it's a different aspect of it. You don't care about how a site destroys a lab kit at the site selection or initiation. At the closeout, now you need to see, okay, well, what does the site do? Where do they store their archive? You're going to see that tomorrow in the closeout. But for SIV and for IMV, what you did today, you see these things. And deviation, another thing. We luckily don't have deviation yet. But once the site starts doing deviations, there's deviation log, okay?
Yeah.
And if they keep committing deviation, they have to retrain, training log. And if they make serious ones, it needs to be kappa plan. Alright? All these things you gotta keep in mind. And it's impossible to memorize. You have to just know how it relates.
Corrective action, preventive action.
Yep. This is the most important thing that you need to pay attention to. Even now, before we finish for the day, go back and see if there's a process of consent for all this.
Okay.
She's our monitor for a study.
Okay.
Training.
Training. Okay. Great, great.
Our in-house monitor
Okay.
for this week.
Do you want to have some clinical trial training for the Chinese doctor?
Yes, we do.
We can introduce you. Yeah.
Please.
We train approximately 100 doctor every year.
Let's do
Every
it.
year.
Let's ask
Senior
Dan. What do you
researcher.
think, Dan? We do it? Yes, I do. You want to do it? This kid
Yeah.
can't wait.
We can help you to translate English part to Chinese.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll translate any language.
Any language. Okay.
If we find somebody to do it.
Yeah. So
Okay, did
please
they hear
introduce
you?
your program. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
No mahalo.
你
Yeah.
好，你好，你好。
What? How do you
你好，
say, how do
你
you
好。
say no problem in Mandarin?
没问题，没问题，
没问题。
没问题 means no problem. Yeah.
没问题 no mahalo.
没问题，你好，你好 means hello.
没问题.
So this is
I gotta remember
the
that one.
brochure I bring you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Anything else? Anything else? Before you look, I need you to make sure this is there.
Okay, I'll go
That's
check
very important.
it. Alright.
And I don't think any student talked about that even.
Okay.
So you did a very good job, and the way you knew this right away, you knew, and you know this too, you just didn't think of it. By tomorrow you'll learn more. When the closeout, you'll see it backwards.
Yeah.
You have to know it frontward and backwards. It's not just a nice thing to say. It's reality.
Okay.
You see?
Got it.
And this is with no one randomized yet. All this stuff in the report. Imagine when people start randomizing, there's gonna be all kinds of more stuff. Then you look for
Yeah.
protocol compliance,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Adverse effects and all that.
AE, SUSARs. Now the site can still get SUSAR if they're not randomizing patients, because other sites may be getting SUSARs, right? So if this other site has a SAE and the sponsor thinks it's a SUSAR, they send it to that site too. So sometimes just because the site's not randomizing doesn't mean they shouldn't be maintaining a SUSAR log,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the PI needs to sign and date that they reviewed the SUSAR. So sometimes even without randomizing, luckily for this study, it doesn't look like there's any, so it's a safe drug, I think. It's a late stage. Like, yeah, because there hasn't been a SUSAR and we've been doing this for like 6 months.
Oh, okay.
But maybe we're just not getting them. That's an action item. Find out.
Okay.
Find out from Kobe. SUSAR.
Alright.
If you don't see any in the reg binder, ask him.